Hey guys, welcome to today's video on 3 of the hardest things about chronic fatigue syndrome. Now, obviously there is way more than 3, but I wanted to pick out the 3 main ones that I believe make chronic fatigue syndrome so much harder than a lot of things out there, because this stuff is unspoken and this stuff is unsaid. So once you finish this video, I would love you to add to this list. This is going to be a really powerful video for many years to come for anyone who is going through chronic fatigue syndrome, because 1, now you know that you're not alone. 2, you know that you're not making this up and you're going crazy. You're not. This is real. And 3, you're going to be understood. Okay, so let's keep the comments clean below. Let's keep them proactive, but please feel free to share and add on to the list that I've already made here. One of the things that came to me when I was thinking about this was when I was going through chronic fatigue syndrome, how hard it was, how scary it was, how unknown it was. And so number 1 to start with is the unknown. Going through chronic fatigue syndrome and not knowing what it is at the start is so bloody scary. Personally, when I went through it, it was like 17 years ago now. I thought I was dying. Like, I literally felt like I was dying. My body was dying. And I've written here the unknown diagnosis. Like, going and searching for a diagnosis, hopefully nowadays it's a bit better, but still I hear from so many clients from all around the world. We help people in 48 countries now. And one of the things that's so common is it's not understood here. People, my doctor doesn't get it. He or she doesn't believe in it. And that's not the case for everybody, because there are some great people out there doing some great work. But a lot of the time, people's illnesses are dismissed. Chronic fatigue syndrome is dismissed. It's getting better, but it's still hard, And so going on that merry-go of finding a diagnosis, the search, the exhausting search of trying to find someone who can actually identify what is going on. It's scary. It took me about close to a year to finally get a diagnosis from a specialist, which was really, really amazing. But at the same time, it was so disheartening because there was nothing he could give me or do for me in that moment. And that was really scary on its own to deal with. So I think the unknown is the number 1. Imagine suffering something so severe where you can barely stay awake, or you're awake all the time, but you're exhausted all the time, because chronic fatigue goes in stages. You've got swollen glands, sore throat, irritability, gut problems, brain function problems. You can't concentrate, you can't, use words properly. And, everything's out of whack. You're dizzy, you're nauseous. The list goes on. But there's nothing to label it as something, and that's what's scary about it. It's like, what is wrong with me? And there's this constant unknown that's lingering, and that's really scary. Really scary for yourself, but really scary for your family members too. Like I said before, for me personally, I felt like I was dying. The amount of calls I've had with people over the years where that's been their experience too. Literally feeling like they're dying. The good news is it can get better, but I'm saying, one of the hardest things with chronic fatigue syndrome is the unknown. Looking for a diagnosis, getting the knowledge around it, what's actually going on and happening to me, and then the search, like searching for things that will help. And that in itself is just so exhausting. You're already exhausted as you are, and then to try and find someone who understands you first, and then 2, has some practical help that they can give you is really challenging. So that's number 1. Number 2, and I think this actually almost could outweigh number 1, which is not being understood. I think that's the hardest part. I think personally, when you're going through chronic fatigue syndrome, like, not being understood by your closest friends and family is so painful, because you just want to feel like you're one of them. You're understood, and you are who you are, but you're still loved. And what happens is when you get chronic fatigue syndrome, it's very hard for someone who has never experienced it to understand it. And you start to feel a little bit alienated. Like, every time you feel bad, or you have to say no, or you can't do something, you feel like there's something really wrong with you. And, you feel like you have to excuse yourself all the time, and it's like this guilt trip. You feel guilty, you're wondering what they're thinking, you feel like there's this expectation to just like get better and feel better. One of the things of not being understood is people who've never had it have no idea what it's like, and most of the time they say, oh yeah, I've been tired like that before, or they might be really compassionate and say, oh geez, that sounds terrible. But it's not enough, like you just kind of, you don't wish it upon your worst enemy. You don't wish anyone to experience it, but at the same time, you just wish they understood how it really was, because it isn't just like tiredness. If only it was just that, right? The other bad thing about that is that not being understood is it's all in your head. How many people have said to you, I just think more positively, or come on, it's mind over matter. And like even people now, like, I've been doing this work for a long time now, and I might be at a coffee shop or I might be somewhere and they'll go, what do you do? And I say, well, I help people with chronic fatigue syndrome. We run an online recovery program around the world, and we help people improve their health and quality of life. And they say, oh, isn't chronic fatigue syndrome just, isn't that just a psychological thing? And it's like, man, like, no. And they're like, oh yeah, but it must be a little bit psychological. It's like, no, it's a neurological disease, but of course, yes, it affects you emotionally because you can't live the life that you wanted to live and that you've lived before. So, and I always say to them, how would you feel if, all of a sudden you couldn't do what you love to do? How would that be for you? And they'd be like, well, that would be terrible. It's like, well, yeah, times that by 10 on top of everything else that someone's experiencing with that. So I think that's really tough, and sometimes people think that you're making it up. I remember when I used to go to school and I could only go for one period at a day, and, you just have that feeling of like people watching you and going, he's making it up, or she's making it up. It's like, it's not even that bad. There's something else going on there, and it's just not true, so, man. Not being understood. I hope this video is really helpful, to be honest. So I've got here, no idea what it's like, people thinking it's all in your head, and people think that you're just making it up. And you are not, okay? So that's definitely one thing. And the ups and downs, that's number 3. So here we go here. The ups and downs of chronic fatigue syndrome, I think that's one of the hardest things, is literally going from, feeling okay to then feeling absolutely terrible. And the unpredictability of chronic fatigue syndrome in itself, the symptoms that you might be experiencing now, or the experience that comes after doing something like not even a strenuous activity could maybe set you back for a couple of days or a week. And the ups and downs that happen with that are really hard to deal with on a personal level, but then also to explain it to your friends and family can be exhausting too. And so, this one, particularly when you're doing 1 step forwards and 2 steps back all the time, you feel like you can't make progress. You don't know what's going on with your body. You're wondering, why the hell do I feel this way? And again, it kind of comes back to that unknown feeling of like, when is this ever going to stop? Or when is this ever going to get better? And I think that's a really hard part about chronic fatigue syndrome. It's not black and white. It's not like this straight linear approach, like eat well, think well, sleep better, move your body that's appropriate for you and you'll get better. Because, that was the advice that I got so many years ago, which actually gave me the passion to make sure that I could help people on a practical level. Because eating better, sleeping better, moving better, all that kind of stuff sounds great, but doing it, from theory isn't that practical when you can barely lift your head off the pillow, or where you're having such terrible days that you've just got no energy, or your symptoms are so bad that you don't even know what's right or what's wrong. And it can be very consuming and overwhelming. And I think that, there's just not enough talk and there's not enough messages like this out there that explain the hard side of things. It's great to have practical help, but sometimes videos like these can be just so helpful to take the weight off your shoulders. And so I really do hope that you just feel a weight off your shoulders to know that what you're going through is very real, and it's it's not all in your head. You're not making it up. What you're going through is very, very real. And, you know, unfortunately, not being understood and the unknown and the unpredictability, unfortunately, is part of the process, but it can get better too. You know, and that's the one thing that I want to leave you with in the messages. And by the way, like I said, this is just 3. Like I could have written 15. You know, this video could have gone for 2 hours. But I think these are really the 3 main basic experiences that we have all had going through chronic fatigue syndrome. And if you're going through it right now, this is probably what you're experiencing. And I'm not to say that there's some really beautiful, supportive family members out there and loved ones. And if you have that, you are very lucky, and you should be very grateful and thankful for these people in your lives. And, you know, having a great doctor as well, if you do have that. But I want to give you some hope. And on the flip side of that, I want to say that, but there are, you know, I've seen it. There's literally thousands of people who have gone through all of this and also have come out the other end. And yes, it wasn't magical. Yes, there was no quick fix. Yes, there was no, you know, overnight cure. But they did what they could do. They controlled what they could control, and they slowly improved their health and their quality of life. And now they're living full lives. And there's just so many examples. You know, like obviously I'm one. You know, so many people who have gone through our program, that's another thing. But even people who haven't done my program have, you know, improved and gotten better. And so there is that beautiful aspect. And I guess what I want to share with you is that it isn't just one thing. You know, you as you can tell, like chronic fatigue syndrome really affects every aspect of your health and your life. And so what we need to do is have a holistic approach that really tackles your health and your life, and going from different angles to support you and build a healthy foundation to keep you going is really important. So I hope that helps. Please comment below anything that you want to add to this list that's going to be proactive and useful. Okay, we don't want to comment down below and complain about how bad it is, but I think it's important to bring some awareness of how hard it can be. Okay, and you guys can share amongst yourselves. And, you know, I'm sure you guys are going to relate to each other a lot. This is the power of having this video and this YouTube channel out, is 1, to provide you with practical help and support, and 2, to also feel understood and have a great community who are sharing practical tools and understanding with each other to feel, you know, way more understood, which is important. So guys, I hope this helps. I hope there's a big weight off your shoulders. Like I said, the 3 main things are dealing with the unknown. And by the way, like a big shout out to any of you who are going through this. Like, this is fucking tough. Not being understood, yeah? The unknown, and also the ups and downs, the unpredictability of what you're going through, the non-black and white. If only it was black and white, it would be so much easier. But also we can navigate through this. You can navigate through this. You know, I see it every single day in my program. I see amazing members from all around the world, a country that you're in, and they're doing it, and they're making progress, and they're making gains, and they're learning, and they're progressing, and it's phenomenal. So hope this helps. Hit the like button if you really, if this video really helped you. Let us know how you felt below. And I'm going to leave you in the description. There's going to be 3 different things that you can download for yourself that are going to be really helpful and practical for your recovery. 1 is case study guide, so there's some inspirational stories that you can download and get some inspiration from people who have done our program. 2, a baseline training on how you can find your baseline and build a solid foundation. And 3, the 3 key mistakes most people make in their recovery, and how to reverse that and start to do the right things that will help you improve your health and quality of life. All the best for now. I give you a big virtual hug. Keep going. Stay strong, do what you can, and do the best you can with what you've got. All the best for now. I'll speak to you soon.